Alrighty, so we are sitting down for another one-shot review. The movie that I watched today was Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It was actually an A24 movie from 2014, an early A24 movie. And they had a bunch of A24 trailers on this disc. Did you know Spring Breakers was an A24 movie? I did not. But there's so many memes about it in the past. Whatever, that has nothing to do with this movie, but just an interesting fact. Another fact is that this film is by Denis Villeneuve. And normally that wouldn't mean anything to me, but believe it or not, I believe, I guess I don't know where I would say it on here, so that's okay. But this was the guy that I believe directed this movie. So something I enjoy a lot. But anyway, what is this movie about? So this movie, Enemy, follows the story of Jake Gyllenhaal as Adam Bell in some circumstances, or Anthony something else in other circumstances. And what I mean by that is that at the beginning of the movie, well, at the very beginning, we get a scene of like this sort of like creepy sex club thing where they like step on a spider to start the act in high heels, and then they, I'm guessing, like, you know, do all sorts of stuff that rich weirdos are interested in seeing. And then that's kind of the opening scenes, which is a little bit jarring. But then we flip to our character, I guess to what I feel is the main character, the Adam Bell character, who is a history teacher at a college that talks about, his current lesson is about dictatorships and about chaos and order. And when we see Adam in the beginning, he seems like he doesn't really have his life quite figured out, because he's just kind of dragging his way through to work to that evening. His girlfriend comes by, they share sushi and some drinks, and then they have sex, and then right after they're done having sex, she leaves. You hear the door slam. And they make a point to show that's happening over and over and over again by just having the door slam right after. And then he goes back to work and all that, and that whole week plays out. But then one of his coworkers suggests that he watches a movie because he thinks he's down, and he's trying to just spark up small talk with him. He's like, "Hey, why don't you go check out this movie? It made me feel happy. Maybe it'll make you feel happy." He watches that movie and sees that one of the people starring as basically an extra in this movie is literally, it looks like himself. Looks like literally himself. So he then becomes, intrigued with what the hell is going on. And he starts looking up the guy's name, and he figures out that he may have a doppelganger out there that is exactly like him, except lives a completely different life, right? So then this story takes place as the two of them, the two doppelgangers of each other, sort of meet each other and go through, excuse me, and go through figuring out, that whole situation and if they really are the same. And then that leads into some more creepier stuff. And I guess just to point it out, the other guy is the movie star and he has a pregnant wife who seems like a very good, nice person, whatever. And we also know that he has cheated on his wife, because when the Adam guy calls Anthony trying to get a hold of him to tell him that he looks exactly like him, she's like, "Are you seeing her again? Are you seeing her?" And that essentially sets up, we've got Adam Bell as this guy who has a purely sexual relationship with his girlfriend, at least what we can see. And then the next thing is like, the other guy might have this sort of loving or marital type relationship with his wife, who is now pregnant, but apparently they don't, he's got all this extramarital issues that he needs to sort out. And it's assumed that, when we have those scenes in the beginning and we see our character involved in the sex club stuff, that I guess the movie star version of Jake Gyllenhaal is the one that's involved in all this stuff, right? So that kind of plays into that as well. Anyway, that's the setup. I think if I want to talk about the way that I feel about this movie, I kind of have to talk about what happens in it, so I'm going to spoil it. My apologies, I normally don't. But what ends up happening is as these guys become intrigued with each other's situation, for some reason, the movie star version is like, has it within himself that he follows the girlfriend of the history teacher version around all day, gets to look at her, seems to be like really intrigued with her for some reason, and then he comes and threatens the history teacher version. It's like, we're gonna switch places for a day and then I'll be out of your life forever. I'm gonna take your girlfriend on a romantic trip and then that'll be it. And so he's basically like, let me fuck your girlfriend or I kill you or hurt you or whatever. And he's like, okay, fine. Which I think is kind of messed up. Like, it seems like he pretty much went along with it, no problem. So there's like a chink in our armor as far as like, obviously we didn't think the Adam Bell version of him was all that awesome of a dude to begin with, but he definitely wasn't a cheater, and he wasn't, how do I say, like, he wasn't the type of guy that would try to cheat on his girlfriend or let some other dude have sex with his girlfriend for no reason. Because even though it looks exactly like him, it's not him, right? And I don't know, if I were the girl, I'd be freaking super upset at if I ever learned that to be the case, right? And similarly, if I'm the guy, like, that's an extremely dangerous situation. I don't know this guy at all, and that's my girlfriend. So in this way, he kind of shows that he doesn't care about that girl at all, which makes me kind of sad. But regardless, the movie plays out, and the ending is very interesting. And I guess if I'm going to tell you that he ends up going to this romantic thing with her, the history teacher version ends up basically sneaking into the other guy's apartment and spending the night with his wife and even having sex with her. And it seems like the wife knows, and she likes this version of him better for some reason, which is interesting. But anyway, it doesn't feel like it matters very much because of how the ending plays out. And mainly I say that to be because after everything's all said and done, let's just say that there's only one Gyllenhaal left, and it's the one that doesn't have the issues with the sex club. And when he opens this envelope, he basically finds the key to go there, and it seems like he's going to go. So with all that being said, how do I feel about this movie? I guess I'm kind of talking all over the place because this movie is a little bit weird, but I like this movie a lot. Not a lot, but I do like this movie quite a bit. And I think it on a surface level, it explores something very interesting about, what would happen if you found out that an exact doppelganger of you existed in real life. That is an interesting question on the surface level of itself, and I think that's an interesting premise for a movie like this. Another thing that's interesting that comes out of a part of that is that, these two guys are identical all the way down to scars on their body and the way their physique is and stuff like that. And that is to basically throw environment completely out the window. Obviously, I guess we know that both of these guys have issues with commitment and relationships in some way. And, it stands to reason that if these guys are so similar down to what would have to be genetic code, even though they have completely different parents, it also kind of makes a statement to say that everybody, in a way of saying that you're actually not unique by saying that your exact double could exist, you're also saying that everybody is unique down to the moment they're born, because of the fact that these guys lived two completely different lives in two completely different environments and ended up in two completely different places, and yet they stay the exact same as far as the way they look, the way their psyche has developed, the way that they have, scars in certain places or whatever. It actually goes to make a case for uniqueness, almost by being like, this is the exception that proves the rule, right? I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but that's how it made me feel to an aspect. And then there is an interesting level of symbolism deep below about these guys' issue with commitment in relationships and stuff like that, that honestly, I had to do some Googling to understand fully, because they represent this metaphor by showing these giant spiders throughout the movie. And just because I hadn't necessarily connected all the dots, maybe it would have taken me like a second or third watch to try to look for the deeper stuff. And I was just looking for, what I thought this guy was going to like murder his girlfriend or something, the way it was playing out. So I was distracted from these themes a little bit. But basically what it's saying is that, the one version of him, if we're going to call them both him, the one version of him has an issue with commitment where he's not able to stick with one girlfriend, and he has trouble having relationships that are anything more than sexual, to the point where there's even a part in the movie where his girlfriend kind of expects him just to snuggle with him late at night, and he tries to have sex with her, and she freaks out and leaves because she's okay, that's all we do, is kind of the vibe. And the other guy is married and his wife is pregnant, but he seems to want to have sex with everything except his wife, to the point where he has deviated to going to this like crazy sex club where people are stepping on tarantulas and whack it off. Like, absolutely wild. But the metaphor there is like, with these issues with commitment, he has trouble seeing as women anything other than two modalities, as either some whore or, that he has sex with, or some motherly figure that is not to be tainted, right? And first of all, obviously that's not fair of women in general, but it's just like, it's interesting because having read that after watching the movie, it makes so much sense that is the main theme that's going on the whole time, because there are little hints that are dropped throughout the way from his mom, from the way he interacts with people, from the stuff that's stressing him out. And then you start to rethink about other pieces of the movie, like how when he first watched the movie to figure out that this dude existed, he does so. He's like, I gotta finish grading these papers and I'll come to bed. And then he watches a whole movie before he comes to bed, right? So it's like he's intentionally distancing himself from this person in such a way. And then the other guy is like, clearly a serial cheater, goes to this stuff or whatever, but yet he is super nice to his wife and still acts like he's married to her, all that, doesn't want to be not married to her, all that. So he's like, this sexual deviant, but he won't include his wife in that in any way. So anyway, I'm just saying that I see the metaphor for what it is, and I think it's really interesting how they sprinkled those elements throughout the movie. I didn't get it right away because I was so focused on the actual plot development and what was happening between our doppelganger characters, but in retrospect, I really do enjoy how that theme was layered in, and it does prod a certain question about the way that we as men, when we're still immature, think about women from afar, I guess. I don't, it's like hard for me to relate to that because I don't feel that way at all with my girlfriend, obviously, but I could see how, this character feels that way in the film. So I guess applause all around for everybody making it believable. But that being said, if I am plugging Enemy into the one-shot review system, I think, if you had the ability to see this in theaters, probably that would be pretty interesting, because I don't know how, but maybe see it. But honestly, this one's just one of those ones where it's just like a thriller to be watched at home, And that's not to detract from the quality of it whatsoever. I think that this is absolutely a high quality film, and I just think that it slapped. Like today, is a super rainy day, and I watched it on the TV with all the lights off, and that was like the perfect setting to see this movie. The out of 5, you know, like I said, for me, to an extent, this movie was all over the place. That's why I had such a hard time talking about how I felt about it in a coherent or cogent manner. But I did really enjoy, once it all wrapped up and I understood the point that was being made, once I understood the point that's being made, I really do feel like this was a good movie, and it helped me sort of prod and made me think about a lot of different things while I was watching the movie that had nothing to do with what was going on screen, meaning that it was sort of like poking at me with these themes and stuff like that. And I enjoy that. And I think as far as like an action thriller goes, it's actually pretty good, because I was sitting on the edge of my seat like, dude, this other version of him's kind of a psycho. Like, what is he gonna let him go with his girlfriend? What's gonna happen? You know what I mean? And then it was like, you know, when he's in the apartment with the wife, it's like, how is she gonna know? Like, he's acting so weird. Like, what the? And anyway, all that being said, I think that Enemy gets a very strong 3 to a light 4 out of 5. And I think Gyllenhaal did a great job, and I'm looking forward to more movies by Dennis. I think they were pretty good. So that's Enemy. That's the review. This movie was kind of weird. Sorry if my mood's kind of weird. But that's the film. I will catch you guys on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel like it. Feel free to let me know how you felt about this movie if you've seen it in the comments down below. But that's the video. I will catch you guys on the next one.